with the body politic, with individual hearts, and so on. So I want to cut right to the chase. There's been some mention, and it came to our attention, that the guest speaker that we had invited, Cenk Uygur, had in the past made comments on the Armenian genocide that are in contradiction to our platform and the statement of principles of the Progressive Caucus. Now, we are hoping to hear from Cenk and to hear that these statements are actually a thing of the past and that his views are different and that he is a changed man. We are hoping to hear this. I want to go on record as stating that this caucus, in line with our principles, in no way are we going to condone anything that even remotely approaches having a difference of opinion on a historical fact. We know that the Armenian genocide is a fact. It was systematic. It was a crime against humanity. And as such, we support we agree with the resolution that this party passed in 2007, and I would like to read it now. Recognition of the Armenian genocide. Whereas over 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children were killed in Turkey in the first genocide of the 20th century, and whereas California Congressman Adam Schiff has introduced legislation which calls upon the President to ensure that U.S. foreign policy reflects appropriate understanding and sensitivity concerning issues related to said genocide and to accurately characterize the systematic and deliberate annihilation of 1,500,000 Armenians as genocide, and whereas a just resolution is an appropriate and just action that will help to prevent future genocides, therefore be it resolved that the California Democratic Party urges support of the efforts of Congressman Schiff and others to acknowledge on the floor of the House of Representatives the Armenian genocide, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to Speaker Pelosi and the Democratic members of the House representing Los Angeles County. And this was passed on March 13, 2007. There is the right thing to do then, and it is the right thing now to reaffirm this resolution and to go on record that the body of the Progressive Caucus supports and strongly agrees with us, and that as a people that we are always on the side of not only just peace, not peace and quiet, not peace of the slave or peace of the grave, but that of peace and justice. And I hope that whatever pain that there are some feeling right now, that we may hear a changed man, and if not, we've got a lot of work to do. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. We are, you know how this caucus runs, as our best laid plans go, never anything according to schedule. So why would this meeting be any different, right? But we're going to get through this, and it is, sometimes the struggle is bitter, but as Martin Luther King says, if it's with each other, it's a beautiful struggle. So let us struggle together. Thank you.
Good evening, Progressives. Rose Roach, your Central California Vice Chair. I want to ask you some questions, so raise your hand if you or you know somebody this applies to. So how many of you or someone you know are making less money now than they were 3 or 4 years ago because they were laid off, furloughed, had pay cuts, or hours reduced? And look around the room at how many people that is. Well, the richest 1% of Americans made an average of $1.3 million in after-tax income compared with less than $18,000 for the bottom 20%. How many of you have or know someone who no longer has health insurance or had to switch to a less rich plan because of the ever-increasing immoral rise in premiums for health care? Well, the most lucrative sector for CEO pay in 2010 was healthcare, with CEO pay increasing by 37%. its value or are facing or have already faced foreclosure. In 2010, bank profits totaled over $76 billion, the highest since 2007, with Goldman Sachs paying out $16 billion in employee bonuses. They are stealing our wealth from us. They are stealing our opportunities to better our plight. This isn't some liberal conspiracy, this is a real conspiracy. They're defunding public education so only the wealthy can buy a good education for their children. Did you know that student loan debt has now exceeded credit card debt in this country? They're driving down our wages so there is no longer a middle class. Now, I don't have a problem with anybody being rich per se, but I do have a problem with the rich thinking they did it on their own. They did not. Goods to get where they are. And I have a problem with them thinking they have no obligation to give back to the country that provided them with the opportunity to get where they are today. And I have an especially big problem with them thinking they can use their wealth to buy our democracy and our government. We are being relegated to servitude, fellow progressives, and as Chair Bernal often says, this isn't class warfare, it's class emancipation. And it is time for them to pay up. And it appears pay up they soon will be doing. There will be a few millionaire tax increases on the November ballot. It's our obligation as progressives and voters to study all those initiatives and cast an educated vote on the one that best represents our values as progressives. On the flip side, there's an initiative that will require an absolute no vote from us. Prop 226 and Prop 75 are back. Remember those? They were called paycheck protection. They're actually, we used to refer to them in labor as paycheck deception. This time, my friends, they got smart. They are cloaking this in the disguise of campaign finance reform. Now, who doesn't want that? I know I'm interested in it, but only if all parties are impacted equally by the reform, which is not the case with this initiative. This is nothing more than a corporate power grab. Wisconsin has come to California. This initiative prohibits political contributions by payroll deduction, restricts union political fundraising by prohibiting use of payroll deducted funds for political purposes. The same use restriction would apply to payroll deductions for corporations, except guess what? There ain't none. They don't collect money through payroll deduction. It permits voluntary employee contributions to employers and union committees, but only if authorized in writing yearly. It prohibits unions and corporations from contributing directly or indirectly to candidates and candidate-controlled committees. There are huge loopholes in this, allowing, however, for profit to continue to be used, fed into PACs, so that corporations continue to own our government. That can't be allowed to happen. Be aware, be vigilant, and vote no on the corporate power grab. Benjamin Franklin once said, when the people find they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic. Well, we're damn close, folks, but we've got a chance to save the republic. Heal California, tax the rich, and keep working families' voices a part of our debate. Solidarity forever.
Okay, so Karen has stepped out of the room. By show of hands, how many of you can hear my voice? Excellent, thank you. I'm here to deliver to you the communications report. My name is Sharon Kyle, and I am the Communications and Media Chair. So the past year has been a pretty intense year for the Progressive Caucus. We've had a couple of websites, we've had a couple of different Facebook pages, and we've had a couple of different names. So that's why it's important for me to let you know that we're still here and we still have an online presence. We have a newsletter that goes out, and we want to encourage you to please continue to use those. We've remerged the Progressive Caucus CDP website. It's up, it's running, and it's got a ton of information. One of my goals as the communications chair is to provide you with the kind of information that you need to be able to make informed choices and informed opinions. And that obviously is very important, especially tonight. So I encourage all of you to join our Facebook, which is the Progressive Caucus CDP, and to check into the Progressive Caucus website. Please provide us with input. That site was established for you to use. We want to have your comments and we want to have your questions. Now here's Karen.
The next speaker is Susie Shannon, our Officer at Large, to give the anti-poverty report and her officer's report. Actually, Susie, it's your turn. Give it up for Susie Shannon.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Fiery Caucus. So on the poverty front, it's all bad and then more bad. You may have heard about this already because it was a viral video. But on July 27th, a man named Kelly Thomas, who was homeless, was beaten to death by Fullerton police officers. And if you saw the video, you know that something is really wrong in the city of Fullerton. But I'm here to tell you that there's also something really wrong in Sacramento, because not 9 days to that date later, Jerry Brown vetoed a bill that would have given protective status to homeless individuals against hate crimes toward them. So we really, really need to start holding, we need to start holding our Democrats accountable. It's not enough to just go after Republicans. We've got to do something to help folks in poverty. I've said it before, people in poverty don't have a union, they have Democrats. And if we're not standing up for them and we're not holding our elected officials accountable, then they have no one. So we've got to do something. So some of the answers in Sacramento for dealing with the budget have been to continually cut poverty programs. And Governor Brown has decided that the way to balance this budget is to cut CalWORKs and child care. So we've got to put pressure, a lot of pressure, on our folks in Sacramento to protect these folks, protect the underserved, because it's coming like a steamroller. I also want to talk about a bill that was recently passed, which basically ends rent control for low-income seniors and people who own mobile homes. I put this out on the Progressive Caucus listserv, but Democrats should not be sponsoring and voting for these bills. Here tomorrow in the hall to talk to your state senators and ask them to say no to this bill, because it's coming to the Senate and we need to vote it down. This is the beginning of the end of rent control. On the congressional level, I've talked to you many, many times about the fact that HUD had submitted a bill, or had a congressional representative submit a bill to privatize public housing and mortgage it off to banks. And thank God for us that Maxine Waters and Barney Frank at the time were in the Financial Services Committee and basically said, you will not privatize public housing on our watch. Now the bad news is that in November, HUD decided to stick that policy language into an omnibus appropriations bill. So it is now law. So we need you now to work on your local public housing authorities to make sure that your public housing is not mortgaged off to banks. Because I can promise you that if they mortgage off public housing, they're coming for your schools, they're coming for your libraries, they're coming for public property, and pretty soon our tax dollars are going to go to pay mortgage interest, which is going to go directly to banks. So we need to stop that now. And I'm really hoping that you will all help me with that. So we know what a lot of the fixes are for the state budget. One is getting rid of the death penalty, which will add $1 billion in 5 years. We need to get on the ballot and pass the millionaire's tax, which will give us $9 billion. We need the California Democratic Party and our legislators to step up to the plate and listen to us. Because when they don't listen to us, things get worse. And we know that time and time again. So let's do it. Tomorrow there will be petitions for the millionaire's tax and also for ending the death penalty, both in the hall and also in the exhibit hall area. So please make sure that before you leave here tomorrow, you've signed those petitions. To bring up one of the most exciting progressive candidates that we have running right now. And she happens to be running in my district, which makes me even doubly excited. Tori Osborne is endorsed by Tom Hayden, endorsed by Sheila Kuehl, and endorsed by Julia Brownlee because she is an anti-war, single-payer activist who has solutions and leadership, and she is just going to be fantastic. So I want to bring her up right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Tori Osborne.
Thank you for that warm, loving, progressive response. It's my honor to be here, and I'm on a thrill ride. I decided to run for state assembly a few years ago. I was recruited by Karen Bass and Sheila Kuehl. Tom Hayden had been trying to get me to run for about 20 years. Sheila Kuehl had been trying to get me to run. And it just seemed like the right time. It's an open seat. For those of you who know, it's the west side of Los Angeles. It runs from Santa Monica over to Hollywood and Mid-City. It's a very progressive district. It's a district that will have my back on single payer. I'm telling you. Because of a movement that has been built over many years. There's a movement for single payer in California. Many of you are part of it. Because of that movement, connected to the leadership of Sheila Kuehl. I hope she's in the room. Sheila, are you here? Sheila Kuehl, right